Dude, let me turn this off because I can't myself. All right. Oh, now it's just quiet. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, and I will remain nameless. No, I am TJ, and yeah, I lost my train of thought. Oh, welcome to. Why be so loud, TJ? Welcome to episode 112. All right, guys, so here with another guest. I seem to have different methods in finding people, but this one kind of came to me in a way. Obviously, when this comes out, this will be months past, but obviously I had Barbie Ingle on, and, we became good friends, and she has connections and knows a lot of different people, and I was looking for someone with dwarfism for a good while, and him and I can talk more about some of the things that are kind of plaguing his community, or the disabled community in general, but definitely the dwarfism community. But it's hard to find advocates that are on his level, people that are just intelligent enough to really fight and speak up for what they go through. And I think a lot of people misconstrue the little people community because it's just like, well, they function well in pretty much every other area for the most part, except for they're short. But that doesn't mean they don't have, no pun intended, shortcomings, and they don't have, hard times. And so it's always been a community I wanted to kind of delve into, and a condition, or just the little people community in general, wanted to get into because I know their lives are a lot harder than people think. And so she reached out to me and then reached out to him, and he said yes, and we talked, and it seemed like we had a lot in common. And so I guess you can just tell us your name and obviously just a little about yourself.
So my name is Alex Manard. I have a form of dwarfism called pseudochondroplasia. I work for the Forest Service right now, and I have been on 3 different reality TV shows, The Amazing Race, season 27, Naked and Afraid, and then Naked and Afraid with Sharks.
Okay, so they threw one with sharks. All right. I like
it.
So I kind of looked up some, I don't want to say fun facts, but just certain little things here. Apparently there's about 700,000 people with dwarfism in the world. I think it's about 30,000 just in the States alone. I guess the highest average height is about 4'10". And I guess about 80%, there's 300 different types of dwarfism, which I don't think
that is a lot.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that. I think it's just like, oh, it's dwarfism. But and apparently 80% of people who are born with dwarfism are born regular size.
So you don't start getting symptoms until about 2 or 4 years old, I think, 2 or 3, or like 2 to 4 years old when symptoms really start showing that you're going to be short-limbed or have some type of dwarfism.
Right. So how, obviously not to demean you, but how tall are you?
So I am 4'11" and 3/4. I always say the 3/4 just to give myself a little extra inch,
Right.
So my dad, it's my kind of dwarfism it's kind of weird how it runs in my family. Dwarfism normally doesn't do that. A lot of times it's just kind of a random mutated genetic disorder that comes about.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason with my family, it skips every other kid. So like my oldest uncle didn't get it. My dad got it. My aunt didn't, but my youngest aunt did. And so with my family, it's weird. So like with my family, my older sister didn't get it. I got it. And my younger brother didn't. I mean, like my younger brother, I think 5'7". He played Division III football as a wide receiver. Like so I call him my little big brother.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so technically, because like I just read that 4'10" is considered tall. I mean, is the average like tallest, but you're actually a smidge above that. which is, interesting, like I said, because I think a lot of times when you hear people who say they're dwarves, they usually say if you're under, was it 4'10" and a half or something like that, you're actually considered a dwarf. But if you're above it, so I mean, I guess it's more the condition, not the height, right? For you?
Right. And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't really understand about dwarfism is it's not really about the height.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's girls out there that are 4'10" and don't have a form of dwarfism,
Right.
So it's not necessarily about the height. It's more, it's a skeletal dysplasia. So our bones are different. And that's where our short stature comes from, is from the bones being different.
Right.
So like I have dwarf hands, like I have very tiny hands. Apparently my fingers were built backwards or something like that. My growth plates, I think, I stopped growing in 7th grade. I think it was maybe a centimeter after that, not very much.
Right.
So it's with dwarfism, it comes about as like I said earlier, it's not really about the height. The height just kind of is more of a side effect of what was really going on.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about the dwarfism, or just the little people community in general. Like I think people like I said, there's the whole average height, and I think it's more just, I guess you'd be considered a little person. But I know someone who I was just talking to recently, and she's 4'11", and she's really short, but she has regular size limbs. Her arms and legs match her body.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just considered short, and then she doesn't have any kind of bone structure. Like I said, she's just a smaller person in stature, but she wouldn't fall in your category because she doesn't have any kind of condition or anything. She's just a short little Jewish lady.
Yeah, yeah. So it's weird how dwarfism comes about. And the things that come along with dwarfism is disproportionate limbs. So my cousin his arms are a little longer than mine, and a normal sized head is another thing that really comes with it, and which is why a lot of people think we look funny, is because our heads are normal but our bodies are small, which
right,
it is what it is. We don't have a choice with that. That's just what comes with it.
Right. Yeah, it's like a misnomer because people think that you guys just have big heads, but the reality is just your head is actually normal size, but the limbs are what don't match the brain, I guess.
Right. Yep. So yeah, and then the biggest thing with the dwarfism that I have, at least, I don't know about the 300 others, is that we have really bad joints.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad he's 62, I think, and he's already had a full shoulder replacement, a full knee replacement, and he's working on getting a full ankle replacement.
Wow.
So our joints are, the arthritis that comes along with my type of dwarfism is really bad and very progressive.
Right.
So I mean, he's 60 something and already has full joint replacement. And unfortunately, that's what my future is looking like too. I had 2 surgeries on my shoulder just for ligaments and stuff like that, and I ended up actually getting diagnosed with arthritis in both my shoulders at the age of 15. So
wow.
Yeah.
There's a question I've asked many people, but and I've gotten it asked myself. But when did you? I mean, obviously, when you stopped growing, but when did you actually realize that you weren't normal like all the other kids?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm not really sure.
And of course, normal.
When I noticed that,
people define normal any different way, but you know what
right.
I mean. When you're young and you stick
different.
out a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. So I dealt with, I think the biggest thing that I've had to deal with my dwarfism and having people around is the constant bullying that I went through in middle school and high school, because I was different. And I mean, obviously I knew I was different since the age of 2 when I first got diagnosed with it. And so I always knew I was different, but really trying to accept my dwarfism took me years and years and years to actually do. And it wasn't until I went back to college at 26 years old that I really accepted my dwarfism and really was this is who I am. This is how I'm going to be. because this is me. So it took me 26 something years to really accept that I am kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've been different my whole life, but to
Right.
really just be myself, it took me a while to really get to it, and that's like one of the biggest reasons I did these TV shows is because I'm the first one to put my dwarfism, my condition, out on Naked and Afraid. I'm the first dwarfism person to go out and try and do a 21-day survival challenge, and I completed it. And the reason I wanted to do that was, one, I thought it'd be fun, and that was a total misconception. It was absolutely miserable and terrible, but in the end, it ended up being a good because I completed all 21 days. But the other thing was that since I was the first one out there, I wanted people to look at me and see that I am different and it's okay to be different and to go out and like chase your dreams and do stuff that you want to do, not just because I was bullied my whole life and told that I was different and that I can't reach the top shelf doesn't mean that I'm not going to find a way to reach the top shelf. So
Right.
like that was one of the big reasons I really decided to do these TV shows, and having this dwarfism has really like enlightened people, and people call me an inspiration, and I appreciate that, you know, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me and really happy with me doing that kind of stuff. And I met this one little girl in Colorado, and she was one of the sweetest little girls. And this is just from The Amazing Race. Her mom had reached out to me and was like, "Hey, my daughter just got diagnosed with the same dwarfism that you have, and I'll remember these words today. She said, I am so happy and excited to be able to show her that the people that with her form of dwarfism are out there doing big things. And I can't wait to show her the episodes of you and your cousin on The Amazing Race." And I actually took time and went out and met this little girl, and she's one of the most amazing little girls ever. Like, she's just great, super funny, and it was just one of those cool moments to really like walk in and like have this feeling of like I'm this little girl's role model, you know, and
Right.
it's cool to bring out this dwarfism and really bring it into people's eyes that we are different, but it's okay because we are who we are and we love ourselves.
Yeah. No, I think you're an inspiration even to me, and I'm full size, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call the term. But yeah, I mean, you're an inspiration just in general as a person. But I mean,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mean, because if you look around, like, who are the most famous dwarfs? Obviously, Peter Dinklage probably comes to everyone's mind because of Game of Thrones. And look, he earned it. He's a great actor. He's not just he wasn't just good for a dwarf. Like, he's a good damn actor. But how many Peter Dinklages are out there? And when you see, I mean, again, a lot of these like Roman type shows, you will see dwarves and stuff like that for that time period. But you never really see it. Like, he was a really powerful character. So a lot of people really took a liking to him. And, you know, now he gets any role he wants and women will throw themselves at him just because of what he did on that show. But his life isn't realistic to most people who have dwarfism. You know, there's a comic named Brad Williams, who's a funny guy. I think it's his name.
That is.
Yeah, and he's a funny guy, and he kind of takes he shows some anger, but he really brings the humor out of everything. And of course, you had the guy on Jackass, Wee Man. There's guys out there that were doing what they can, and just living their lives. Especially someone like Wee Man, who even though you can say, well, he's kind of making a mockery of it, but he's not. Like, he's having fun with his friends. He has all these full size friends. He's making a jackass, pun intended, I guess, having fun with his life, but he's not showing that his littleness really affects him at all. He's just enjoying his life. And after a while, you kind of forget he's just small because he's just having fun and just doing stupid shit.
Right.
And so, but still, I mentioned 3 people, and I'm sure you could probably mention way more than I could. But like, obviously, Peter Dinklage is probably the most iconic of anybody, if just as far as stature and name wise. But again, like, how many dwarves can you mention? Even just like the average person. Like I said, I mentioned 3, and most people probably couldn't even mention that. And so, for someone like you should be a role model because obviously you're doing more with what your condition is. Like, you're putting yourself out there more. You're more vulnerable because even with an actor, it's like, okay, you're faking a lot of stuff. Like, you can when you fuck up, you can just say cut. You like you're out. I mean, you're putting even more vulnerable. You're putting yourself naked on a television show and saying here, vulnerable in multiple ways beyond just your condition. So someone like you, yeah, like I said, you should be looked up to. Like I said, I didn't know much of you, but again, I also don't watch a lot of those reality television shows, but I know of those shows. I've seen clips and stuff, but and then once she told me who you were, like it wasn't hard to find you, and I realized like, okay, this guy's amazing, but but yeah, like I said, it's kind of sad because, like I said, in your condition, with your condition, there's not a lot of people for people to look up to, like that little girl. Like, who can she look up to, other than someone like Peter Dinklage,
right?
Who isn't realistic.
And it's just crazy with like the form of dwarfism and like because I've been to little people conventions and I've been around the community a little bit, and it's amazing to see how everybody acts with dwarfism. Their personalities are bigger than what they look. It's
right.
Some of the most fun
sometimes.
I've ever had. Yeah, one of the most fun times I've ever had was at a dwarf convention, and I had one of my buddies who's a normal height. He came with me, and he was like, "Dude, little people know how to get down." Like everybody was having a blast. Everybody was being themselves, and their personalities are larger than life. And it's an amazing community to be in. And I wish we did have more people that would speak out and really get into the fact that just because we're little, it's not funny. Like we really do deal with a lot of stuff that we don't talk about, because if we do, normally we get laughed at. It's like, oh, you're tiny, so like it's funny. Like there's a bunch of TikToks that I've seen with like a little person jumping into a lake, and then it's like a water droplet noise. It's funny. Like you have to laugh at yourself. Life is funny. You have to laugh at yourself. You have to understand that. But at the same time, it's not okay to sit back and pick on somebody.
Right. You're kind of the butt of every joke. Like even recently, I've seen. I don't know how many people saw the latest Joker movie. Well, there's a dwarf in that movie, and there's a scene where, and he actually is really nice to that guy, but Joaquin Phoenix. But he's really nice to the dwarf. But the reality is, there's a scene where he tells him he can, he basically kills everybody in the room, and he just says, you can go. But then there's a scene where he's trying to get to the door and he can't reach the door, and there's like a 15-second like awkward, oh look, the little guy can't reach the doorknob.
Yeah. Which I thought that scene to me, I thought it was kind of fucked up.
Wasn't really,
but
necessary.
I also thought it was really fun. I thought it was really funny.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's
the
whole like laughing at yourself and like just enjoying life. Like it was messed up, but at the same time it was funny. Like,
right. Yeah.
There are some things that I can't reach that I do ask somebody taller to reach it for me. Right. But that doesn't mean just because I ask them to reach it for me doesn't mean that I can't find a way to do it myself. It's more convenient. You're right here. Just reach it for me,
Right. How have you made life like work for you? Because like I said, one of the things I'm most fascinated by, especially with all the people I've interviewed, I would love to hear what people use or do to make life work for them. So like obviously for the visually impaired, we use a lot of different things to blow things up for reading or whatever, somehow to visualize it a little easier, put it more in focus. I met someone who had a traumatic brain injury, and she still wants to be able to drive, but her right side is paralyzed, so she has like a little pedal on her car that on the left side, and when she pushes it down, it pushes it up down on the right side, so she can still drive. There's people, they have so many. Cool. Yeah, there's so many, and she has like a cutting board where it just kind of keeps everything still, and she presses one button and it cut. Like there's just all these different little mechanisms that people make, and again, I know it may be a little different because you may just say a ladder. I don't know, but in general, like what are the things? How do you make your life? Like, how do you make life that's not built for you work for you?
So, one thing with me personally, I was lucky enough not to be very short with my dwarfism. Like I said, I was 4'11", 3/4, and pretty much 5 foot. Right. So there's not much that I've used personally in my life to make my life easier or better. My dad uses tongs sometimes to reach stuff higher up. I'm still young enough to where I can like jump on the counter if I need to get to the top shelf or something like that.
Right.
But when I get older, obviously I'm going to need to get like a grabber or something. I do know some little people that have pedal extenders in their car. I do know one that has the handle, the gas and brake on the steering wheel, so they can drive. I know people use scooters as well when their joints are hurting to walk around too much. And that's coming from a girl that I know that she was younger than me and she's already in a scooter.
Wow.
So it's hard to sit here and say like all these tools and everything that are being used when I don't personally use them, but I do know people that do.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is that a reality to a lot of people with dwarfism as far as just scooters and wheelchairs and crutches and you said you got a lot of pain and things yourself. Uh, is that a reality to a lot of people with that condition?
Yeah. So it kind of goes along with the age as well. So obviously, and it also depends on the type of dwarfism. So that little girl that I met, that looks up to me as like a role model, she's already in a wheelchair and a scooter just because it really hurts for her to walk. And she was 6 years old when I met her. And so the one thing with dwarfism comes a lot of pain with the joints and everything. And that's what not a lot of people believe or see, like, because we don't just tell them like, hey, I'm in pain. Like I don't know why we do that. I'm stubborn. I won't tell somebody I'm in pain, but that's just me. But there's a lot of things that in reality with dwarfism that I will eventually have to get my joints replaced. So the things that my dad and my aunt are going through right now in their 50s and 60s,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that is my future. That is what I'm going to end up having to do. So, yeah, it's a disability that really kind of progresses as you get older and your joints really deteriorate and your bones start hurting more, and um, it will get bad. And I'm not looking forward to that at all, but I'm also not afraid of it because I do know what's coming.
Right. Is there something to that, like that as a human, like you're supposed to grow more, but you can't because of the condition? Like, I have no idea. I'm just literally asking, but,
Yeah, so like people actually end up shrinking as they get older,
right.
height wise and everything. But with the form of dwarfism that I personally have, my arthritis, like I said, I was diagnosed in my shoulders at 15 with arthritis, and it's gonna grow, or it's gonna get worse. I shouldn't say grow. It's gonna get worse, to where my joints will either solidify and I won't be able to move them, or I'm just gonna need a full replacement, and it's gonna be painful until I get to it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, yeah. Again, obviously when you get older, a lot of people go through all kind of problems. Your body just doesn't develop the same, and obviously everything slows down, and everything depending how much wear and tear you put on it. But it seems like it doesn't matter how much wear and tear. You could be pretty active and in shape, or just you don't even have to be very active at all just to hurt yourself. You just at some point your body's just gonna kind of go probably faster than the average person.
Right, and like I've talked to, I live a very active lifestyle right now. I work for the Forest Service and I'm a recreation technician, so I lift like a lot of heavy stuff every now and then. I'm always like hiking and moving around, so I live a pretty active lifestyle at the moment. And I've done physical therapy for my shoulder before, and I asked them, like the physical therapist, about like I told them about my condition. I told them about what my dad's gone through, and they told me that since I live an active lifestyle, I potentially could prolong my arthritis. But then again, they're not. They were like, but don't quote us on that. Like, we're not specialists in dwarfism. Like, we don't know. Like, you could end up having a joint replacement earlier than your dad because of something like that, or being active could prolong it until you're like 70 or something. So it's not. There's not a lot of case studies on this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, they're really, we could probably get into it, but I was, again, trying to find. There's enough information out there if you really look, but but finding people to just even put the message out there in the first place. Because I'd rather hear from someone who's like you than, even a doctor or someone who,
Right.
comes in contact with you guys and helps, whatever, alleviate all your problems. And, we talked about this the other day, but the sexualizing of dwarfism is like off the charts, more than any other disability I've ever seen, because it's in all of the different, subdivisions of our community, the disabled community, but it's not as prominent as yours, where it's like, and I know you said, like, some of them are bigger than life, and but some of it, I don't know if it's just as far as what I'm seeing, like on Instagram and TikTok and all that. It's like, it's over like an overcompensation of like, well, you're not going to see me for how beautiful I am. Well, here's my ass. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, man, like, you can still be beautiful and small. Like, I get it. But it's got to be really frustrating for you as a person who, is trying to overcome and trying to be a person who is showing others like, hey, you can do a lot more with your size, and we are special and whatever. And you got all these other people, especially the women, where it's just like, nah, I'll just shake my ass instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand the sexualization of somebody with dwarfism. So like when I was on Naked and Afraid, I would get messages left and right asking me how hung I was because of my form of dwarfism, like,
Right.
they're like, oh, they blurred you past your knee. You must be pretty hung for a little guy. And it's like, what? So that's not the point of Naked and Afraid.
Right.
Naked and Afraid is survival and dealing with a partner. It's not about the naked aspect is just an aspect of survival that a lot of people don't go through. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, how is my body without clothes on, without gear on, gonna react to it torrential downpour,
Right.
So like, I always tell those people to just screw off. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, I block them right away, and I let them know that, Naked and Afraid's not about that, and it's not okay to talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've never really understood why some dwarfs, or why some dwarfism is so attractive to other people. Like, I don't understand what, like, I don't get it.
Well, I mean, look, we live in this world now where, when I grew up, porn wasn't easy to come by. So, you had like these chip boxes and so on, and not to give you a whole history of porn, but you had these little chip boxes where you can kind of get pay-per-view and some of these things for free, and the porn channel would always come on at, 12 something, 12:15. I'm not going to pretend like I don't know. I just can't remember at the moment. It's like 12:15 at night, and you would just play horse racing the whole time, and then all of a sudden porn would just kick on. And as a 12-year-old, it is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But anyway, but you didn't get to choose what you saw. You didn't have all these different categories and fetishes and all that. And then we developed all into these, like Comcast boxes and all of that, where you actually had to pay for it. And then, of course, then you had the Playboy and all that back then. And then it developed into now where you have like Pornhub and all these free services where you can find porn, and it's literally like, if I'm in the mood for Chinese, it's like picking food. It's like, what do you want? And, there's so many categories. And I believe they still call it midget porn. I don't think they call it little. I mean, some people do, but I think it's still under the category of midget porn. And it's like, it's there. And again, it's a fetish. And, again, people, whatever, look, I'm a guy. We all have our kinks. I get it. But that's the only time you ever really see it, where it's like, oh, look, it's just like, oh, there's just a category. Get to the M's. Oh, midget. Oh, boom. There you go. There it is. Boom. And, there's so many fetishes now. There's so many weird things where it's just like people smoking cigarettes and people wearing casts. And it's not just like interracial and lesbian and the basic stuff. So, but midget, or, dwarfism, but what it's called is midget porn. Like, it's there as just a fetish, and there's a lot of people that get off to it. And I think some people try to capitalize. And again, we know in this world, especially women, selling your, sex sells, selling your body really does sell. But what's frustrating, again, that's fine. Again, obviously, like I said, there's about 700,000 of you in the world, which is not a lot in comparison to any other group. But when you have such few people as it is, and then you break it down to how many are advocating and how many are trying to do the right thing. Again, I'm sure there's more of you than people realize, but there's damn sure not enough, especially when there's only 700,000, and I'm shortening it really. It's like 600 and something, but close enough. So we'll say 7. It's sad because the fact that mostly what you see and when you resonate with, people, little people is, oh, they're short and they like to, shake their ass to, urban style hip hop R&B type music, and it's like, it's sad because it's like, man, like that's not all you have to offer. And again, like finding people like you, when I say you're an inspiration, because you really are, for one, but two, it's just, what you could take the easy way out, and you can kind of exploit your people and all that shit, but you decide to actually challenge yourself and put yourself out into the world, and Naked and Afraid, forget whether you like the show or not, like it really does symbolize something. And you don't have to go on those shows because, in some cases you kind of are a freak show to some people, and people look at you like, oh, look at the weird guy, like you're the guy that, with no legs or arms or same thing. It's just, oh, look at the short person, why is he here? It's like, oh, they must have just got him just to get some ratings. But you're not I don't know what you think going into that, but you're doing it mainly for you, and I'm sure there's probably some, in a way, you kind of were advocating for your people, whether you were intentionally doing it or not. But you were showing what you could do, but also what your people can do, just through a television show.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I went on to the show to prove to myself that I can finish 21 days, but also prove that even though I do have a form of dwarfism, and I do have a condition, I can still do shit other people do.
Right.
Like one of the big quotes that I've gotten a lot of attention for was the beginning of my episode of Naked and Afraid. I said, I've seen guys twice my size not complete this challenge, and I'm ready to stick it to them. There
you go. Yeah, exactly. And that's like the disabled person in you, like that. We always have to overcome something anyway. We're constantly proving not only ourselves wrong, we're proving other people wrong, even if we don't know it. And I think, I don't know how well you did on the show, and I don't even know the entire premise of it besides just trying to survive, and improve stuff to yourself and all that. But I'm sure it might have made the show a little easier because, again, your life was never easy anyway. And again, it's a different type of survival, obviously, because you do have amenities, you do have food and shelter and clothing, but still, it has to help a little bit.
Yeah, that was one of my big selling points when I went into casting for Naked and Afraid, was that because of my dwarfism, I've had to learn how to adapt my whole life. So you stick me anywhere, I'm going to find a way to adapt and live there and survive. And I survived all 21 days, and I completed my challenge.
Awesome.
And the biggest thing that I learned about my challenge, about myself, was when I first said that quote, that I'm going to stick it to the guys that are twice as big as me that didn't finish the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end of my challenge, my mindset completely changed. So I went into the challenge trying to prove to others that I'm tired of being underestimated because of my height, because of my dwarfism. I'm tired of people looking down on me. No pun intended.
Right. Yeah.
And at the end of my challenge, on my extraction boat, my rescue boat, if you want to call it that, I looked in the camera and said, I am done underestimating myself, and I am done listening to what other people have to say about me, because I just completed 21 days in the Amazon jungle.
That's right. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
yeah, we all kind of have to hit a bottom at some point, and it doesn't always have to mean alcoholics, or, when you're about to overdose or whatever. I mean, sometimes you got to hit a mental bottom where you're just tired of taking people's shit. You're tired of just, and again, of course, people do it in their own way. Some people do it in a harmful way, and it, really it's not the greatest thing to do. But, there's a lot of us that we get tired of it. We get tired of seeing what our representation is to the public, and tired of just being a joke to everybody.
Yeah.
And again, I have it a little easier than you in a way. I mean, yes, my eyes suck way worse than yours, but the reality is, like, I can hide mine a little more than you can, at least visibly. I can hide, no pun intended to me, but visually I can hide mine where you can't. Is it hard?
Yeah, I have.
Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I have people. I'll go to a restaurant and like, people come up to me and ask me if I'm a real adult or a full adult or something like that. My cousin the other day, I was talking to him, and he just got a girlfriend, and she's a little person too. And they were out at a restaurant, and this guy literally came up and said, "Can you guys even, um, are you guys even able to get the adult menu?" And my cousin was just like, "Yeah, we can." Like, fuck off. And it's there's no hiding what we have, and the sooner people like really realize that and accept that they are who they are. I had a whole new outlook on life when I did that. I am happy with who I am. I don't want to be tall. I don't want to be normal height. I My dwarfism makes me unique, and it makes me worth my life, and I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, so the question I was going to ask you, because look, you really are a strong and beautiful person, but we all have our mental health. We all have things like I'm in my strongest days. There's no one can touch me, and I have very thick skin and so on. But we all have our moments where something gets past our armor and whatever. But as a person who is shorter, and it's got to. And again, I don't know how you deal with it, but is it hard for you sometimes that sometimes people don't want to take you seriously, even though you're an adult, you're a human, and you know your height is what makes people look at you like, oh well, I'm not gonna take that serious. But I don't know. How does your emotional set like? Because again, like I said, we all have our own things that people can point out and pull to the front and go, look, see, it's eyes is what's holding them back. But with you, it's you're an adult. You're fully there mentally. You don't have any mental disabilities. You're just an average person who just happens to be shorter than the rest. And it's got to be hard for you to just have conversations with just people who don't know you or don't care about you. And you're trying to actually have a serious conversation with them, and they're literally just looking at it like, oh, who's this little guy?
Yeah, I mean, and I hate to say it, but there's always going to be those people in the world that will look down on me and make fun of me and be rude people.
Right.
And one of it's going to happen. And a lot of my low points in life have been because of those situations to where I literally have just been picked on and made fun of for no absolute reason other than I look different.
Right.
And it does really take a mental stroll on you to where, luckily I've had my cousin. He's a year older than me, and he's got the same thing. So we would be able to talk to each other about like things that are happening to us, and find out that it's happening to somebody else too. My cousin. It made me feel better that I wasn't alone. My dad has the dwarfism too, so like I'll call my dad sometimes and just be like, hey, like I really need to talk. Like I'm really down right now. This happened to me. This guy was taking pictures behind my back. And making fun of me on Facebook, and I'm just mentally I'm hurt, and I would sit there and talk to him. So like the biggest way that I've gotten over this and still have lived a very happy life and a very successful life at this moment is because I've had somebody to talk to, and I think that's one of the biggest things with like mental health that people are afraid to go do is it's okay to go talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be a family member or a relative or a friend. You can literally just go to a therapist and just somebody random and just take it all off your chest, and it'll make you feel so much better. And that's one of the big things that I don't really think our society is. We're starting to now a little bit, but not back then. If you went to a therapist, you were crazy,
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I look at it the same way I look at like with me. Like I kind of took on this stupid mantra of, the people who see the most people who see the most usually see the least, and vice versa. And I think I look at it way in your case where it's like a lot of times, weirdly enough, you have to be the bigger person. A lot of people, they think very small. They don't, they just have a small mindset. Whereas you have to be a big person every day. You have to keep yourself in check. You have to just, you have to live in this big world as a small person, and you overcome way more than the average person by far. And, being strong, that's the biggest thing you can do, is just show strength. And a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people, again, you did a show where most people could never do. Survive. Even if you could say, well, it's for a week. It doesn't matter. You take the internet away from most people nowadays, they can't survive. I mean, they could survive, but they can't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's sad. And you did it without clothing and food and all that. And so, yeah, like I said, that's what makes people with disability so special, is that a lot of the things that on the surface is what people point out. It's like, I can't see and you're small. But it's like, yeah, but again, I can see more than most people, just not physically.
Right.
But I'm not biased by politicians or, or whatever. I look into what I read. I'm looking for what is best for me and what's best for everyone else. And if I don't want to vote, I'm not going to vote for someone I don't like, or I'm not going to just follow some stupid, religion or something just because other people are doing it. I'm not going to get peer pressured into something. I don't have any biases. I can like an artist and still say, oh, that last album was shitty. I just don't, so I can see, and I have empathy. I can see when people are hurting. I can care for that. Whereas a lot of people, they don't care. They just see whatever they're told. And like I said, in your case, you're a small person, but you have everything about you makes you big. You have a big heart, and you have a lot of strength and, courage, because again, a lot of people being a dwarf and getting on national television and trying, on a major network, major show, and being naked on television, regardless if they want to show your parts or not, you're still naked, and you're in the wilderness, and there's bugs and animals everywhere, and you're doing everything that shows that you're a big person. And I hope that doesn't sound demeaning, because it sounds weird to say you're a big person, but.
No, you're good, man.
Yeah. Is there a real proper term for you guys? Because the reality of it is, I know midget is bad, but it almost seems like dwarf and little person is also demeaning in a way, because there's no because you can say someone's blind or someone's deaf, and it's like, okay, that's the condition, and I get it, dwarfism is a condition, but it's like when you see dwarf, you just think of again, you just think of these just little people running around in the what's that candy the little
no way.
The
no way.
The chocolate factory. Yeah, the little whatever those things are called, Loompas. Yeah, the Oompa Loompa. You think of stuff like that, and you don't you always get I always get a bad taste in my mouth, where it's even when people would say, obviously the term mentally retardation was what the medical term was, and obviously retard was bad. But then they came up with mentally challenged, and it's almost pointing out the fact that yes, it just sounded bad rolling off the tongue. Whereas even the same with you guys, where it's okay, they're short people, they're little people, and again, I get it. It's hard to kind of, I don't know, is there a real good term, obviously, than other than just calling you by your actual name? But I don't know, is there something good to call the little people community?
So I think it honestly is personal choice. I hate the term midget, and that's because the word was created to make fun of people with dwarfism. If you look up the history of the word midget, it actually goes all the way back to the medieval times, to where they would bring in a little person and make him a jester and just throw things at him, laugh at him, make him dance and stuff like that, and they would call him a midget. And that's where the word derives from. So when I hear the word midget, I think they're honestly making fun of me.
Right.
And it's not an okay term to be said around me. Obviously, a lot of people don't know that. They think that word's okay to say, because there's not a lot of people that advocate saying that is a bad word.
Yeah, because there's some that actually accept it. I mean, in your community.
So, Brad Williams says it in his comedy stand-ups all the time, and I think it's funny.
Right.
But that's the thing, is he's making fun of himself by saying it. Somebody's not making fun of him and saying it.
Right.
It's okay to make fun of yourself and laugh at yourself and say this kind of stuff, but at the same time, if I had a random person come up to me and go, "Hey, are you a midget?" yeah, that's going to irritate me and piss me off.
Right. Kind of
So
confuses the
with
argument. Yeah.
yeah, and so with terms, I know a lot of people in the dwarf community are okay with saying little person or dwarf. I think the word dwarf's hilarious.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's hilarious. And scientifically, I have a form of dwarfism. So that is technically the proper term. Is I have a form of dwarfism. I am technically a dwarf,
Right.
and so I'm okay with that word. Little person, like I don't really like being called little either, but I'm more okay with that than the word midget.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like I said, we live in this weird time now where everything is so politically correct, and it's like, of course, within hip hop, nigga is thrown around, so like it's like, well, no, white people can't say it or Asians can't say it, but some of them can say it, and then it's like, then gay people started going, well, we now call each other faggots, but you can't call us that, and then of course you got some little people doing the
Yeah,
same thing, and it's like it really kind of convolutes the whole thing because it's like, in your case, there's not a lot of you, so we already have very little information as it is, and then when some of them are thrown around and again, I'm not in this politically correct world. Obviously, I didn't just say N word and F word and all that just because I'm using it in the
right.
context. But people get mad regardless of what you do anymore, so it doesn't matter. But it is. But so like I said, it kind of messes up because there's so few of you guys that if someone hears another little person saying midget, it's like, oh, okay, it's okay now.
They think it's socially acceptable. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma said that because I said I was going to interview, I was telling her about your story, and I don't know, I heard her telling them, she's like, oh, yeah, he's going to interview this midget. I'm like, Grandma, stop. That's not what this is. And I love my grandma, but she's 89 years old, and, back in her time, everything was acceptable to say. So, but yeah, and so it's just one of those things where it's just like, and I've changed, I try not to go down that road with a lot of the words. I have friends that are all different, multicultural and so on, and we goof around with each other and whatever. But some of the words just, it's just like, yeah, we kind of probably should just bury them. Like for me, the one, I just don't say retard anymore. And one, because I'm a disability advocate. And two, there are a group of people that can't defend themselves. Whereas, at least the black community can defend themselves, the gay community, even your community can defend themselves. When you have a mental disability, other people usually have to fight for you, and it's not fair. So it's because we would joke around with our friends and go, "Hey, stop being a retard." And then the older I got, the more it was just like, even though it's still in context of just goofing around, I'm just like, it just feels wrong because
it still feels derogatory.
Yeah, and even though that person's not special needs, and I would never say that to one of them. It just felt wrong. But like I said, they have no way to defend themselves. And so it just felt, yucky, I guess. But yeah, it's good that you clear that up. Cause like I said, I obviously have heard many times that midget was wrong, and I at that point just stopped saying it. But, there is this weird kind of back and forth, where there's a lot of people that still say it that are little people, and they don't care. They're unapologetic about it. It's like, yeah, I'm a midget. So what?
Yeah. And I mean, there's even youth classes that are like bantam and then midget and then youth or something like that.
Okay.
So like the word, it's and like sporting events and that kind of stuff, like your age group. There's one called midget. I can't remember what sport or whatever it is, but like the word is always going to be around, and it comes more to a point of how you react to it and how you deal with the situation more than what the word really is. So like words are powerful. So if like somebody came up to me on the street and called me and was like, "Hey, are you a midget?" Obviously it's going to piss me off, but I'm not going to show anger because that's showing him that word irritates me. So like one way I do it is like, technically, yes, I do. I am a midget, but that word is not okay to say. I actually have a form of dwarfism, and that's a more scientifically proven word to say. And if you were to approach me and ask me if I have a form of dwarfism, that sounds a lot more curious than just a rude comment of like, "Are you a midget?"
Right. It starts conversation, and you're beating them down with with logic and intelligence. Whereas because there's a lot of stereotypes in every community, and it's like even like with the black community, it's like, okay, if a white person goes to call you that, it's like, yeah, it's wrong of them to say that to you, but when you act that way, they automatically call you a monkey and a savage. So if you go and act the way they already assume you're going to act, and instead of breaking them down like you did with intelligence, and then, look, there's plenty of black people that actually do that, but if you just react and punch them in the face, even if they deserve it, you're kind of proving them right in their own, at least in their own minds anyway. And it doesn't help your argument. And it's like, you can be,
no, it doesn't.
yeah, like you could be a great person regardless of what you look like.
That's one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn. There was one moment with my dad that I will always remember when I was going to middle school and high school and I was getting bullied nonstop. I went up to him one night and said, "Dad, I'm getting into a fight tomorrow. I've got this one guy. He's been picking on me a lot. He's been bullying me, and I'm gonna punch him in the face. I'm gonna start a fight tomorrow just to prove my point and get some respect." And the thing that my dad said, and I will remember this for the rest of my life, it was one of the most tough love things that I've ever heard, but it was correct. And I hate that it was correct. He says, "What's that going to prove?" And I said, "I'm going to get respect out of it." And he said, "In all honesty, Alex, get used to people doing that to you." And that made me take a step back. Like, that's not okay for people to do. And there's nothing being done about it.
Right.
But it's not going to go away. And when him telling me that and saying that to me, it made me think of better ways to react to situations than just being angry and trying to start a fight and prove my point with fists.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. And again, like we have, obviously mental health, but having a disability and people constantly saying things, and a lot of anger and resentment just builds up. And so you want...
Oh, yeah.
And this is why, like, I hate when people write people off because of certain things that have been written about them or some things they've said, because I can empathize with a school shooter. I've said this many times. It doesn't, I was actually accused of, I could have been one, that's why certain people didn't mess with me in school. It's like, you're the crazy white kid that probably could have shot up the school, because I had so much anger and because no one wanted to go to the prom with me and people teased me and so on and so on. And I just didn't have any access to guns at the time. And I really had compassion and love for humans that I probably would have never done it. But the anger was there. The rage was there.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why it's, I guess that's why mental health means so much to me, because, again, even though in your case you just wanted to start a fight, but who knows where that could have went. And just like I said, one incident could, a whole Rolodex of multiple other incidents could have happened. You never know how one little thing in your life can change the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I would have been suspended from school right off the bat.
Right.
So, like,
yeah.
There's that. I would have missed. I was a wrestler in high school, and I would have been taken out of a meet. I could have potentially been kicked off the team. Like, there was a lot more consequences coming from me trying to start a fight than there would have been if I just either ignored them or just be like, "Hey, you really need to stop," right. And just like said something,
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, what is your like dating life been like? Because I know something we talked about earlier is that, a lot of times, especially if it's people on my side of the field, full size people, whatever the hell you call us, we usually the people that you should date, that you are attracted to, or the people that end up dating you are people that either look like you or people who fetishize you, at least in your instance. And again, there's some really nice people that will find you attractive regardless, and they should. But yeah, so what is your like dating life, like your experience has been just being as someone with dwarfism?
It's definitely not easy. Obviously, a lot of girls look for the tall, dark, and handsome prince,
right?
Which I'm not tall, so I have that against me. But
right.
My dating life hasn't really been that affected by my dwarfism, for me at least. So, like, obviously in my head, sometimes I'm like, oh, she doesn't want to date me because I'm a dwarf. But looking back on my past relationships, I've had plenty of girlfriends to where they looked past my dwarfism and saw my personality and who I was and loved being around me for that. And so it, it's hard to find those kind of girls that really do that, but um, they are out there, and I haven't really had any problem with dating people.
That's good.
Um, yeah, so and a lot of people with dwarfism will end up dating somebody else with dwarfism. Like my cousin is dating a girl right now with dwarfism, and they're happy as hell. They're so happy to be with each other. Like they get each other's struggles they've been through with dwarfism and everything. And I think that's one of the big reasons why a lot of dwarfs date dwarfs is because we've all kind of been through the same stuff, and we can push aside all the bullshit we went through being a dwarf because we've already all been there, you know.
Right.
So
Well, there's always
yeah,
been,
I
yeah. Go, buddy. Go ahead.
good.
Oh, I was just gonna say,
Uh,
because it's always been this like joking stereotype, like when black people bump into each other, they're always happy to see another one, even though there's plenty of black people in the world and in this country. Whereas, I remember hearing my friend worked at Toys R Us, and he said there was a dwarf that worked there, and he just went around town like, oh yeah, look, there's a dwarf, like there's one of them, but like
yeah,
I couldn't tell you if there was a second one here because I've never seen a second person with dwarfism around here, or a second little person, and then that's why another thing why it's got to get hard because, like I said, there is so few of you. And again, I mean, it's probably better to live in major cities and where there's more people. But yeah, if you have a low self-esteem and you only feel like you can only attract, people with dwarfism, then it's got to be much harder because again, dating is shallow in general. And so yeah, and if you're not trying to attract full-size women, it's going to be even harder because, like I said, there's some of these towns where there's maybe one of you. So to
right.
find a second one, yeah, I don't know. And again, maybe I'm making this up in my head, but do you feel like it would be harder in this case for a man with dwarfism to date outside of, I don't know how you say it, outside his size, like, than a woman? Because, women, dating life is easier for women anyway. But
Right.
again, like you said, tall, dark, and handsome. Well, at the end of the day, guys will sleep with big girls or sleep with short girls or tall girls or whatever. The only time their manhood gets in check is when it comes to like financial status or whatever. The woman's a little more vocal and stronger. Like maybe he's dating a UFC fighter or something, and then his manhood kicks in. But overall, at the end of the day, a man he can break down his morals and he'll sleep with anything. Not every man, but some. But whereas women, women have that as well, but it's a lot lesser. Women tend to find certain things in men, like you said, tall, dark, and handsome. And if you don't have those, usually when they start to settle, it's like, oh, because they've been treated like shit so many times by so many of those guys that they thought were attractive. Anyway, I'm babbling. So do you feel like dating is harder for a man with dwarfism than a woman, as far as to date outside your size?
I honestly don't know how to answer that because I am just one time a male. I'm a straight male,
Right, fair
so
enough.
I can only really say what I've been through. I don't really know on the side of the female side if it's harder to date, and I don't necessarily want to sit here and speculate and be like completely wrong or anything.
Right.
So with my experience and being a straight male with dwarfism, it's not easy, but it's not hard. So, and what I mean by that is like the whole accepting yourself and who you are is what I think is attractive to people. So when I go to like charity events and I'm the only little person there, um, and I'm having a blast. Like I am who I am. I've dealt with it my whole life, and I love myself. And I think that really brings out my personality and really shows to other people that I don't give a shit about my height. I don't care that I have a form of dwarfism. I'm here to live life and enjoy life.
Right.
And I think that's what brings out the confidence and the attractiveness to have girls look at me differently than just my height.
Right. Yeah, you kind of take the elephant out of the room and just say like, "Hey, okay, little person walking through. Here I am. Now
Yeah,
let's get to business." And
yeah, yeah. Let's go have a beer and have fun or something. You know, like it's yeah. I've got like this one girl that I've been talking to for a little bit now, and she's a normal person, and obviously I'm a dwarf, and you know we have really good personalities to where we crack up at like most stuff that we say to each other, and we're not a thing or anything. We're just kind of like Snapchatting back and forth.
right.
But you know, it's fun to have that connection with somebody to where it doesn't give a shit what you look like. Let's have fun and joke with each other and just have conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like I said, that's the only reason why I started this beyond just telling my story and everything. It's just having real conversation because these conversations don't ever really get out there. You know, a lot of times it's
Yeah,
maybe people who look like me talking about you to people who look like me, or people who look like you talking about people who look like you to people who look like you. Whereas we're not having the opposite. When we're talking about, you know, whatever relationships and sex, a lot of times it's not men talking to women; it's men talking to men and women talking to women. We're not,
yeah,
racial discussions. It's not white and black people discussing it to each other. And if it is, it's always heated arguments and no one's listening to each other. It's never, you're not having positive conversations. You're not making any difference, and you're not digging in and actually trying to see where the other side comes from. And I think, I mean,
yeah.
like I said,
I,
people get written off so easily.
yeah, and I've listened to your podcast several episodes now, and I absolutely love what you're doing, man. Like this is
Appreciate it.
definitely a way to get other people's stories out. It's a way to see the other side, you know.
Yeah.
And I love your podcast. I'm definitely a subscriber.
I appreciate it, brother. I do. Again, like I said, it's, I don't think people understand, like, obviously a lot of things that we go through, but even with me, like, and I don't mean this in any kind of, not trying to be a dick, but I've said this multiple times. I don't have to come on here and talk to people with dwarfism. I don't talk to people about racial issues or, whatever. Like I have a cop talk coming on soon where we talk about racial relations. He's also a black officer. I don't have to talk about that. I could just literally get on here and talk about myself, which would be gross. But I could literally do that, or I could only, which is I think what a lot of us do in the disabled community is we only talk about our disability. We don't ever bring the others in. We don't try to empathize and try to figure out what they go through and figure out how we can come together to make real difference and change. We just go, "Oh, I'm blind. How can we fix things for the blind people or the deaf or whoever?" And that's what really is bringing us down the most. That's why, even when I watched that documentary Crip Camp, there was people with dwarfism in there. There's people in wheelchairs. There was blind people. There was every disability in there fighting for us so we could get the ADA passed and so we can get all these laws and so we could go to real schools and all this shit. And the only way that could happen is if people actually came together. And again, like I said, I do this podcast and it morphed into what it is now, but I've always wanted to bring people together. And I didn't know it was through the disabled community because I never looked at it as on a broad scale. I just was like, well, I'm disabled and I'm lonely and no one's like me. And then you find out there's a shitload of people like you. And even if they don't have the same problem as you, they're a lot like you. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what's between your legs. It doesn't matter how tall you are. That shit doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I'm not trying to be, some Martin Luther King or some hokey, nonsense. The reality of it is, like, a lot of us have so many similarities. It's just we point out the most obvious shit to make us different. And it's like, no, man, like, fuck cares? Like, yeah, you're, whatever.
That's yeah, and I agree with a lot of that. Like the way that our society is I don't understand where our society went from accepting people for who they are to you look different, I'm going to make fun of you. Like I don't understand that. And our society needs to start realizing that it's okay for people to be who they are. And even if you don't disagree with them, doesn't mean, or even if you disagree with them, that doesn't give you the right to go over there and tell them that you disagree with them.
Right.
Like it's just, I wish people would just leave people alone.
Yeah. But we're also like, people are so fragile and so easily manipulated too, because, and I think I talked about this on a previous episode, but it will be out when I put this out, but I haven't put it out actually. but is that like I'm seeing a lot of people on like these on social media and they're fighting for, inclusion of the disabled community itself. Like we want black people, we want women included in just, whatever. If there's a poster, we want black women on the poster for people with disabilities. It's like, look, I love the sentiment. I love that you want to be included, but the reality is the disabled community is included in shit anyway. And so if you spread us thinner than we already are, we already break it down to blind, deaf, amputees, and so on, little people, and all that shit. We're already thin as it is. So now if you break it down to color, and you break it down to gender, and you break it down to all these different things, we don't have a fucking chance to make a difference because we're so looking out for our own people that look like us, down to the smallest molecule. And it's like, dude, how can we make any real change?
And that's the crap that I don't understand is why are we even doing that? Like, why does it matter what color your skin is? Why does it matter what gender you are? Like, you have a form of dwarfism, and I want to help you. Like, I want to be there and talk with you because I have the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And again, like, I think part of it is just because causes for women or for black people are more prominent and people care more about that. And fighting for people with disabilities is not easy because you're having a tough battle. Because look, most of the people that listen to me are probably not disabled. It is hard as hell to reach our community. It's ridiculous. I am not going to give up, but it is frustrating every day when I try to reach out and just try to get all new. Like when I find great guests like you, it's amazing. But how many people are like you exist? Not even just as a dwarf, just someone with a disability who cares enough and wants to, push the envelope and actually make change and unity and all the words that we overuse and oversaturate, and they don't really mean anything anymore, but they really do when they're used, like love. Love is a word that basically is destroyed because, we're under 50% of people staying together in marriage, but there are people who genuinely do love each other. Like I have a lot of love for you and I don't even know you that well because of what you overcome and what you do. And I can have a lot of respect and love for what you do, and that's true feelings. But we throw around love and even shitty words like racist, and we just throw any word around nowadays, and the meaning doesn't really stick. And so, so bring it back to, like I said, there's nothing wrong with fighting for causes for black people, for women, for transgenders, for whoever. But when you break it down and you're not like saying like, hey, yes, I want to fight for transgenders and women and all that, but I also want to fight for people with disabilities. I want to bring them all into one because, look, the disabled community bleeds into every other community. It's a fact. Like homeless community, we bleed into white community, black community, the rich, the poor. We're in every community. It doesn't matter. And so it's like, why can't we just bring, like, again, who gives a shit about your color? People already look at us because of what we lack, or what we have or don't have. And it's like, so then let's just look again, color doesn't matter in our disability. Like, regardless if you believe in God or evolution or whatever the hell you believe or don't believe in, we have all been created differently and life likes to point it out. And so fuck it. Like, who cares if black people or white people or what they're doing, because black and white people both are disabled, or they're people with disabilities. There's black and white people that are both short or tall, fat, skinny, so on and so on. So why are we so divided? Why are we constantly looking at the media and all this shit and worrying about what other people are doing when it's just like, look, they don't want us together. It's clear because if we want to change things, like I've said many times, 2 million kids go missing a year. We're distracted by dumb shit because now we're talking about, we have to start wearing masks indoors again, like, even in your own house. And again, I'm not anti any of this shit, but the reality is like we're so distracted by one little cold. And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't care about it, but we're so distracted by that kids are being scooped out of their houses every day and no one gives a shit. People with disabilities are constantly being abused and, assaulted. Racism still exists, sexism still, all this shit still happens. But unless it's like pointed out, like unless something like some kind of viral video comes out, no one cares. Like that whole Asian hate thing is ridiculous because I've lived in Philly for 22 years of my life and I saw Asian people being killed and beaten a long time ago, but no one gave a shit. Now people give a shit because a video went out and it's like, well, now Asians are being abused. No, Asians were being abused back when World War II when we made them, build our railways because they bombed us at one point. It's, we've been abusing everyone. This country's been abusing whatever minority you want to point out. So it's kind of, that's why it's so frustrating how divided we really are.
Yeah. I don't get why our society keeps dividing stuff. I just don't get it. We're all here to live our lives, and we all live in the same world, and I don't understand why we all just can't accept each other for who we are and just leave it at that,
But it comes down to people like you and I, people who have seen like the worst in people. We've been the butt of people's jokes. We've been the ones that people look at and go, oh, aha, look. And, and again, we've also seen the good in people. There's a lot of people that don't care. There's a lot of people that really do great things for people like us. There's a lot of technology that is built for people with visually impaired and blindness, and they're not like us. They use us to help them to make the technology because they want to know where we're coming from. But there's a lot of people like Apple, for instance. Again, Apple does a lot of shitty things, and I'm not defending Apple just because I have Apple products. But what Apple has done for the blind and the deaf community is amazing. They don't have to give a shit about us. They just don't. But I can't see my phone unless I can zoom in, or my computer, and again, there's things that people are putting out there for us that is amazing. And there's one of the things I wanted to highlight in this second year is just highlighting the caregivers and the moms and the dads and the people that are really looking out for us because they don't get enough shine, because it's when people do look at us, whether it's a freak show or it's, oh, wow, look how amazing that is. They don't look at the people that are most affected by us, and the ones that care for us and have gotten us through all the hard times, and the people have supported us when we didn't support ourselves. And so, like I said, I think a lot of times we also tend to get stuck in the battle against, normal people or, able bodies or sighted people, or all the words that we throw at them from our different angles and point of views. We tend to kind of get lost in the fact that our battle isn't with people who are able bodies. It's just the people who make the rules that make it hard for us. They just so happily are able bodies.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of the rules that are made in this country that, restrict other people of different cultures, so happily a lot of times end up being white. But white people didn't invent slavery. That shit happened way back in the Roman times. Like and again, I'm not excusing it. It's just the reality is we constantly are looking for reasons to divide us. And it's a human thing. It's not a color thing. It's not a size thing. It's not a gender. It's none of that shit. It's people, Hitler could have been a good person, but he wasn't. All it comes down to is circumstances. Life changes you one way or another. And some people go the bad way, some people go the good way. It's just, again, like I said, there's a lot of people who are like you that aren't as positive and, they're not forthcoming about their condition and proud to be who they are, because, you hear a lot of that in the disabled community, people who are proud to be disabled. But those are the people that are at the forefront, the people that really do mean that shit. But there's a lot of people that are insecure, and again, like back to the sexualization.
Oh yeah.
Like they're not secure about it.
Yeah, like I said, it took me forever to actually accept who I am and live a happy life. So,
do you know what your moment was?
I don't have a specific time. And I do think that Naked and Afraid really brought more of my self-awareness out than I even knew that I could reach. So I would say probably 2019, at the age of 26, was probably when I really just started accepting myself. And that was right after I got done with 21 days in the Amazon jungle.
That's got to be just, we can wrap up here shortly, but like what's that experience like? Just, I mean, it's got to be a very surreal thing, but when you first got there, did you think you could actually even make it? Like, did you feel like you made the right choice just by doing this?
I'm a very cocky person sometimes. Okay. And I always knew that I could make it. Like, I was like, I'm going to go on this, I'm going to rock this challenge, and it's going to be great. And unfortunately, I went in there with that mentality that I can do this, and not we. So me and my partner clashed heads a lot just because my mentality wasn't in the right spot to be working with a partner. And that's one of the biggest things I regret from that challenge was I wanted to do this and not we needed to do this. But we ended up coming to an understanding one night about each other because she went through a lot in her life too. She's an able-bodied person, like fine, but she didn't have like the best growing up. And so there was a lot of similarities here and there that we just sat there one night and just talked about that and really realized that we both been through some shit and we can do this together. And we started really working well together. And unfortunately she ended up getting medically evac. And I ended up doing about a week by myself out there. But
Wow.
I think that week by myself was when I really started realizing that I am who I am, and I don't need to sit here and listen to what other people think of me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's, I'm sure that was another defining moment in your life of, I mean, like you said, you were kind of cocky and, you were strong as it was, but sure, I mean.
Oh, that jungle humbled the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's, I'm sure, yeah, but you proved it to yourself because I'm sure if you would have failed, no one would have been harder on you than you. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of always been my argument for people like us, where it's like, look, just give us a chance. Stop putting more limitations that we already have, because a lot of times we mentally handicap ourselves anyway, because we're constantly thinking like we can't do these things because of all the hurdles and not everything is always hard for us. We can't just we put ourselves out to the world like, I get on here talking about my mental health and all this shit, and I constantly try to find great people and all that, but you're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to get a lot of no's, man. You're going to get a lot of people not accepting you for who you are, and not even just the people you expect, even the people that look like you. And so, yeah, so when you get on there and you do something that's so hard, and it's got to be, it's got to be very humbling at the end, where it's like, shit, I succeeded at this, and this could have went many different ways. I could have run this through 10 different times, and this might have been the best outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
No. I was going to ask you, was there any other misconceptions about little people or dwarfism that, besides just the height part that we talked in the beginning, just any misconceptions that you think that people just completely are absolutely, idiotic about?
Probably just the fact that people really don't know what dwarfism really is. They just think we're short.
Right.
And going back to the skeletal dysplasia that I actually have that gives me my dwarfism, a lot of people don't know what dwarfs really go through, like with the pain of the arthritis that I have, that my dad has, and dealing with having to get joints replaced. And I have a very, very mild case of dwarfism, so I was very lucky. But I have seen some other little people that they're in and out of doctors nonstop, just trying to deal with the skeletal dysplasia that they have.
Right. Yeah, and that's like, that's something you have to get across. That like I said, there's so many different variants of it. Like I said, was it 300, and everybody suffers from it differently. And
yeah,
I'm sure some people
dwarfism isn't just short.
Right. I'm sure some people hear your story and it's like, wow, he has it easy. Somebody with dwarfism, I mean, because it's like, well, I have this and I'm in a wheelchair. It's like, yeah, like, again, I've said it many times, I could be blind. So it's not, we're not, we're showing you a good, a better outcome of what dwarfism could be, but there's always worse. And that goes for anybody. Like, certain disabilities are worse than others. It's just, we can't break it down that way, because then that's how you divide it even more. But, there's people with dwarfism that have it way harder than you.
Yeah.
And but again, you have to speak for everybody. You have to speak for all people with dwarfism. Again, I try to speak for all people with disabilities. Like, I don't want to just speak for the blind, or I don't want to just speak for, even just the mental handicap, or all these different, like, I'm not just talking about for depression and all, like, yeah, mental health plagues us all, but that's just one avenue of it. We got to talk about all people with disabilities, because regardless if we have a lot of differences, which we do, and that's kind of the ultimate goal, is to get us all together, because we're so equated with the guy in the wheelchair logo when more than half of us aren't even in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
A lot of us will never even see a wheelchair unless it's just because of just old age. And again, I hope not. I hope most people don't. But the reality is, none of us, a good amount of us, are not even in wheelchairs, and we are equated with that logo. So it's like, well, why don't we just do what they want us to do, and we'll show that we'll all come together, but we're not going to show that we're alike. I mean, in some ways we will shine in that way, but we're going to show how different we are in the end. It's just, the only way to prove it is to actually come together and support each other, and actually, like I said, it doesn't matter what you look like, because people already think people think we're weird or whatever. Again, a lot of people, I think every person with a disability that I've come across, that has been equated with someone who is slow, regardless of how intelligent they are. I've said many times in my cases, because if I look close to a phone to see something, it's like, oh, he's slow because he's got to look close. And it's like, not really. It's just, that's just what you think, because you're insecure.
Yeah.
What was I going to say to you? Kind of wrapping up here. Do you have any kind of, like, I always like to let people like give a little advice to anybody that's like them. Like, do you have any advice for like people who are, a younger Alex is struggling with, their dwarfism, and they're now, coherent enough to realize, okay, they're a dwarf, they're in a big world as a little person, and they're, they're struggling, whether it's their mental health or just struggling in life?
I think the biggest advice I would have is to talk to somebody. And I'm always, whoever's listening to this, I am always one of those people you can reach out to, and I will have a talk with you. I'm always there for anybody that needs it. But that was the biggest thing for me growing up and dealing with what I have, was just to talk to somebody and get everything, all my aggression and all my frustration off my chest. And there it is. Journaling's a real good way to do it. I'm not a big journaler, but it's a way that some people really can kind of just get the frustration and dealing with society off their chest.
Right. No, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to say? Just, like I said, not that I had a lot of questions. I didn't have any questions written down really, but like I said, I really enjoyed you, man. You're an amazing dude, and happy you actually did this. Obviously, I'm happy that Barbie introduced us, and like I said, I hope we can be friends outside this place, out this little bubble we're in right now. But yeah, like I said, is there anything else any information, anything? Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about dwarfism myself. I'm learning on the fly, and I'm all about educating people and kind of like what you go through, because like I said, I knew your life was never easy, but I didn't know how hard, because like I said, I have enough problems myself, and I can't always just try to figure out whatever the people are going through. So I figured, hey, have someone on who can share their story and, enlighten people.
Yeah. I mean, we've said a lot in this hour and a half we've been on, and I love it. So I don't really have much more to say. The only thing that I would like to say is to stop judging somebody for how they look and just accept for who they are, because you don't know what they're struggling with. I just wish our society would do that. Right
on. Yeah. Like I said, and you just never know what they have to offer. I mean, a lot of people are so shallow to, like you even just said, tall, dark, and handsome. It's okay. He's not tall, but it's like, again, I've always said, like, in relationships, like, write down the 10 things that are most important to you in a man or a woman and figure out what you want from them. And if they have 7 of those things, they may be a keeper. Now, again, if one of those things is disloyalty, okay, there should be like a category of the things that matter the most to you. And if loyalty and honesty are 2 of the most, the highest on your list, and they have, they don't have those, or they're missing one of them, okay, they're probably not a good fit. But if 2 of the things on there is, they have big genitals and white teeth and money, 3 of those things, but they have the other 7, you might have found a good match. It's just, you got to stop being so shallow and realize there are people that bring things to the table. It's just what your perception of, again, tall or courageous or whatever your perception is on how people get things done and how they function in life. Just because it's not your reality doesn't mean they can't do it. And that's the limitation part. Like, just because you're short doesn't mean you can't reach things. You just find a way to do it.
Right.
Just because, whatever. Just because I can't see certain things doesn't mean I can't find a way to see it.
Yep.
And it's great. Like I said, brother, I appreciate you. I really do. I'm glad we can become friends. And like I said, we'll definitely keep in touch and support whatever you're doing. And when this episode comes out, obviously I will let you know. And if there's anything, is there anything you want to promote? I didn't even ask.
Not really. If people are interested in watching my reality shows, I was on The Amazing Race season 27 with my cousin, who also has the same form of dwarfism. My Naked and Afraid episode was season 11, episode 2. It's called Little Person Big Challenge. And then I was on Naked and Afraid of Sharks 2020. So I think that's season 11, last episode too.
But before you, is it literally the same thing, just sharks? I don't know, what's the difference?
Yeah, I was on Shark Week. Week
okay.
So it was a special edition Naked and Afraid episode, and we had to survive, but the only way we could survive was through the ocean and shark infested waters. And there were times to where there were sharks less than a foot away from me. So it's definitely interesting to watch.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I started to watch a little bit of the Naked and Afraid episode. I'm going to finish it. But you don't have a website or anything?
Nope. I just got my social media. My Instagram is Alex T. Manard. That's Manard, my last name. And then, I'm just on Facebook as Alex Manard.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if there's anything you need to promote or whatever, we'll do it. But just in general, if you got anything going on, let me know. I'll definitely support you. And like I said, hopefully we'll talk soon.
I appreciate that, brother. It was great talking with you today.
Yeah, same here. And thanks. I know you had to drive out of your way to do this interview, so I appreciate that too.
Oh yeah, of course, man. I was excited to do this one.
I'm glad. Like I said, we'll talk soon, and we'll talk about non-disability shit the next time around.
Cool.
All right, brother.
See you, man.
See you, man. All right, guys, that was really cool. As you know, I am not a very politically correct person, and I know he's not really either. He's a really good guy. He's very open-minded. But it really is hard to not say things that aren't punny and not just even when I said something about shortcomings. I wasn't doing that to be a dick. It's just it's so fucking it's just this world that we live in that I have to constantly worry about what I say, and I really usually don't. But it's just I do care about him, and he's a great guy. I know he will take it the right way. It's just I'm so used to this sensitive pussy world we live in, and again, I also want him to know I genuinely care about him, and I care about his story, without just I'm sure there's plenty of people that just perceive him a certain way and just will constantly make him feel a certain way. Anyway, my buddy Bullet, you want to say hi, Bullet? You want to purr or something? All right, you see, you got on an episode. It's been a minute, I think, huh? Well, you also yelled in the background, I think, previous episode and in this one. He's a good boy. He's laying here all curled up in a ball next to me, beating me with his tail. And, but he's a good boy. I wish he was my co-host, but he doesn't really want to participate that much. He just wants to be cute. And he's very, very good at it. Someone should pay him for just being so damn cute. Huh? Yeah. All right. Guys, again, appreciate the support. Please like, comment, subscribe. One of the things I should kind of promote a little more, please join, add me on Instagram if you have it. It's at My Blurred Opinion. I do a lot of lives, not a lot, but I've probably done about 6-7 lives already, just talking about, specific issues and just stuff that's on my mind that I just don't want to just do an episode about, because I only have like 15 minutes of just kind of dialogue. I mean, I could do a whole one, but I'll be stretching it. But it's just some stuff that's on my mind currently, whether it's about my mental health or, celebrating Disability Pride Month and things like that. I did one on like DMX when just about addiction and just how we were so hurt by one person dying, but we didn't really talk about the hundreds of thousands of people that died the previous year of addiction. We're only worried about DMX. And this is coming from a DMX fan. It's just, anyway. So just stuff like that. I just throw some issues out there, some stuff stuff that's bothered me, stuff I'm happy about, so on and so on. Just, you'll see some pictures of Bullet. I always put some audiograms of like the upcoming guest and just things like that. Just there's some happy stuff, some sad stuff, some whatever. But yeah, guys, I hope everyone's well. Support me as much as you can when you have time. I really am grateful for everyone. I know I say the same shit all the time. I apologize, but there's only so many words that come to my head, and there's only so many words that you can use that'll be applicable for what we're talking about. And it's hard not to just say the same shit sometimes, but I genuinely do care about everyone who supports me. I can't do this without you guys. I mean, I guess technically I could just talk to myself and no one could care or listen, but that's not the point of this. The point is to reach as many people, to bring us together and fight for what we need in this world, the real issues. So I hope everyone's well, and I will see you guys next week. Same time, same channel, blah, blah, blah. All right, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.